Hello, Next Geners. Welcome to the Next Gen of Racing show. It's been 6 months since the autumn. Damien Ractliffe here from The Age, joined on every show by or with Hayden Byrne from Daily Sectionals. G'day, Hayden.
Good evening. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. We've had a busy few weeks. We had our golf day 2 weeks ago. We had the big Turnbull Stakes Day event at Flemington last week, which was a massive success. Nearly 190 people on the deck. Raised over 15 grand for charity. So it was a great effort. You can see we've got a Next Gen hoodie on today. We've launched the merchandise range. So Hayden, I expect next show you've got a Next Gen polo or hoodie on.
It'll depend on delivery times, mate.
Oh, mate, they're quick at FanFave. Fanfave.com.au. You can get your Next Gen merch. But yeah, no, it comes pretty quick and mate, good fit, nice color. Next Gen logo on the back. Actually, I've got a Next Gen puffer jacket too, mate. So if the winter wants to hang around, we've got everything sorted. So good event on Saturday, mate.
Yeah, excellent. Was I thought the best part of the event from a betting perspective was that all 4 teams managed to really push that level mark for the day, and the Donald's boys were outstanding with their selections, getting a couple of nice winners. So I thought everybody did a fantastic job. Event really professionally run by yourself, fantastic guests on the day. And I think that those that attended, from my perspective, the feedback's been excellent. So I don't think that will be the last of the Next Gen events. I think it's only starting from here. Yeah,
no, it was a great day. And as you said, the Donald's boys, I think their big winner was backing Private Eye each way. And geez, that was impressive, Private Eye winning last week. But let's get stuck into this Caulfield Guineas card. We've only got sort of half an hour before Zoom will cut us off. This might be the best race day of the spring. We'll start with the big one, the Might and Power Stakes. I'll go through the tab market. Animo is 240, Zaki 480, I'm Thunderstruck 6, Alligator Blood 6, Mwanga 12, Mr. Brightside 15, Benno 21, and Nonconformist 61. Most of these horses met in the Underwood at Sandown, but Animo adds another flavour to that race.
He does. He's the Cox Plate favourite. Any idea what sort of price he is for the Cox Plate at the moment?
Oh, I'm going off the top of my head. I'm guessing he's about 350.
Is there any chance after Saturday he's an odds-on favourite after he beats this lot up?
I think so. I think these are his main dangers, aren't they? I know I Wish I Win has a boom running in the Toorak, and we'll talk about I Wish I Win a bit later, but these are the weight for age 2,000 metre horses. I think Zaki behind the market in the Cox Plate. Then there's a knock on I'm Thunderstruck, whether he's a 2,000 metre horse. I'll get your opinion on that. Alligator Blood would be in the Cox Plate market as well, but it looks like the Cox Plate's at Animo's mercy, especially if he wins on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. He looks the golden one going into the Cox Plate. I think it's always nice from a Cox Plate perspective too, when you feel like you can use last year's performance as a little bit of a reference to what level you think he will go to, where the others are completely unexposed in a Cox Plate style scenario. So you've got a little bit of the unknowns. You throw in the mix of confusion with horses like Alligator Blood, Mwanga, I'm Thunderstruck, Mr. Brightside, etc. at 2,000 metres. I think, makes it a little bit more confusing for everybody else, but there's some good opportunities if you can put the puzzle together.
Well, Alligator Blood won the Underwood. I'm Thunderstruck, I thought was a big run, but was, gave Alligator Blood a fair head start. I think it might have been about 5 lengths to the 800 metres, and then it was a dash over the last 400. I think the Price Kent team want to settle a bit closer with I'm Thunderstruck from barrier 1. How do you see the race panning out?
You would have a level of expectation that Alligator Blood would roll forward. Zaki's probably the most interesting one, whether he wants to go and look Alligator Blood in the eye, or he just wants to sit back. Jamie's natural riding style would say that she'll just sit back and allow Tim Clark to once again dictate. Clark, very, very smart in the Underwood. What everybody thought might be, a little bit of a trot and canter, ended up a race with some good pressure early. Probably caught a few by surprise. And then he backed it off through the mid, but he backed it off to a sustainable speed. It wasn't excessive, and he allowed himself to ride very, very smartly at the hillside track, where he let the horse roll and build his speed up down that hill and not overexert and allow him a kick left in the locker. And I think a couple got caught napping and a few got caught tricked by the T. Clark ability on a leader. So once again, that's going to come to the forefront. You know, Zaki's the obvious from a forward runner's position. And I think most people would have a level of expectation that the extra 200 metres that, you know, this is probably it for Zaki in terms of where he's going this spring. He has to leap into that range if he's going to be competitive in a Cox Plate. You know, the big smoking gun there has to be the big boy from Sydney.
You having a bet?
Yeah, I've got a level of expectation here that Anamo's going to get his right race. He's come through 2 relatively soft races in Sydney, where he's just, you know, he's basically been able to leisurely canter through the first section. His squeezes through the mid haven't been excessive, and his late speed's just been sustained. He hasn't really had to go to that big level, but the level he brings in right now is what you would call a typical profile for a horse like him. And, you know, it's very, very difficult to see him not improve 2 lengths on the low from what he's done in Sydney, which would put him then within range of going into that +6 range or higher in a Cox Plate. And if he's going to ask some of these horses to go +6 or higher in a Cox Plate, they're going to be in a world of trouble. So from me, I've got an expectation that Anamo can get there. I think that the race suits I'm Thunderstruck much more than what the Underwood did. Smart Camp, this is his golden opportunity. He doesn't necessarily have to win, for my eyes, to go to a Cox Plate, because I'm not expecting the same level of pressure here that what we would get in a Cox Plate. And a Cox Plate may suit him if he can run out a strong 2,000 metres here. Alligator Blood's the X factor. And I'm not completely dismissive of Mr. Brightside. I think that horse might have raced a little bit flat when the big acceleration went on last start, and he sustained his speed late. I'm prepared to take on Zaki. You know, if he beats me, good luck to him.
I've actually gone very similar. I've gone Animo on top from mine, Thunderstruck, Alligator Blood for third. I think he'll be in it a long way. And I'm expecting to see Nonconformist bounce sharply. There have been a couple of declines late that make me think he's probably a run behind what he was in the spring. And I think he peaked in this race last year and then backed up 7 days later into the Caulfield Cup. I think they want him obviously peaking in the Caulfield Cup. So, yeah, he ran a +5 in this race last year, but his start prior was a +2.5. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to that sort of +2.5 level and maybe fill a place in the top 4. And then he comes right into Caulfield Cup calculations for me, because nothing out of the Turnbull really jumped out at me. I know it was a slow race and they dashed home and Smoking Romans got the win, but Nonconformist is one that competing here at weight for age and then stepping back to handicap, I'll be looking for a good run from him and then 7-day backup. Race 8 is the Caulfield Guineas. The favourites, Golden Mile, who ran in the Golden Rose, won the lead up to the Rose at Rose Hill, the run to the Rose. Barclay Square from the Dan O'Sullivan camp is one of the second favourites. I'll just get the market here with the tab. So it's $2.60 Golden Mile, Barclay Square 5, Tijuana 9.50, Amenable 14, Elliptical 17, Bankmore 18. I thought good run last start from Bankmore, Meridius 19 and 21 the rest. How do you see this, or is there a standout in your eyes?
Did you say this was the Caulfield Guineas?
It is the Caulfield Guineas, and it's a pretty weak addition, isn't it?
This isn't a benchmark. Oh, sorry, I had this written down as a benchmark 72. I didn't know this was a Group 1 race. It's interesting. Track conditions going to be vital. We were racing on a good track and there was a positive for Parade for Golden Mile. I would say that any black figure is a good figure.
Yeah.
And he would just be beating these.
Now we might see a soft 6, soft 7. Any queries there?
Well, he's from our internal stuff, he's never been on a track at that rating.
Yeah.
So obviously he has been on a track with some give and he flew through it. His acceleration through it late was excellent. But, you know, soft 5, a good track with a bit of give in it as an S5, even down to a soft 6 is completely different than when we start talking, you know, are we on a 7 or an 8?
Yep.
Just can't get their grip, obviously. You know, if he flies in wet ground, game over. But you still have that little bit of an unknown there. So on pure talent, I mark him clearly on top. There's a couple of leapers there. But, you know, if he repeats either performance Rose Hill, he's going to ask a horse to run, you know, an exceptional level PB to beat him. So, you know, Mullane's there somewhere. I think he can put himself into it. He's a horse, yeah, he's a big straight line speed horse. Fast ground would be, you know, a good ground would be far better for a horse like him. Elliptical is the one for me that has an X factor about it. Really smart camp, know how to win a race like this, put him through the right races. You know, he's going to get everything out of him. And the other one with the X factor that I didn't really know how to mark was Elkington Road. So I was Golden Mile, and then I was trying to find those horses who were very, very difficult to find, but had the X factor that, if I say, okay, Golden Mile, you know, he doesn't run to his Sydney profile, he runs benchmark. Who were those horses who could run that benchmark level at a mile? And they were the horses that I came up with. But reality is, if Golden Mile doesn't win, nothing's going to surprise me.
Yeah, no, I've got Golden Mile as the best bet of the day. I've got Mullane for second. I think that Golden Rose form is the strong form. And when we talk about this being a weak race, I think there are just a lot of 3-year-olds that are sprinters this year. The best 3-year-olds a lot look like they're going to be freshened back towards the Coolmore. We've also got a stronger crop of fillies this year. You look at like Fireburn, Zoo Gotcha, those horses that ran in the flight. Some of them will run in the 1,000 Guineas. So that's why this race has come up pretty weak. But I'm Golden Mile from Mullane. Bank More, I thought was a good run last start. Again, nice close at Sandown, step up to a mile, looks good for Bankmore and Elliptical as well. And I heard comparisons, Elliptical with Superset, and we'll probably remember that race where Alligator Blood probably should have won the Caulfield Guineas and Superset got out wide into the lanes at Caulfield. You can do that. And Elliptical, it's going to be a big effort from barrier 1, but I can just imagine that they'll be looking to get out wide and see if he can take advantage of any lanes out wide. And I think John McNeil might be doing similar on Bank More from probably more of a midfield position. So that's why I've got Bank More ahead of Elliptical there. Race.
Probably the horse I didn't touch on that a lot of people will have an interest in is Berkeley Square. He's completely unknown to me. His last 2 performances have been excellent, eye-catching. Important to note, Flemington, 2 starts back. Major slowdown, 4 to the 2, basically left flat-footed, huge acceleration late, 2.3 length acceleration last 200. Then you go Flemington again, last start over 14, massive slowdown, like a monster slowdown. He was travelling 0.8 of a length below benchmark between the 6 and the 4, just building. And he was travelling 0.42 lengths, 4.2 lengths below benchmark from the 4 to the 2. So that slowdown was enormous. And again, massive late acceleration. He's a horse that can clearly go benchmark, and he has a soft track, you know, in that soft 7 style profile. So he's going to get through the ground. So, you know, he's the other one. He's the one who, you know, if he goes +1 here, wouldn't surprise me at all.
All right. The other Group 1 is the Toorak. I Wish I Win, $2.60. Very impressive in 2 starts so far in Australia for Peter Moody. Tuvalu, $8.50. Military Expert, $8.50. Gentleman Roy, 9. Pinstripe, 13. Uncle Bryn, 16. Character, 21. Law of Indices, 23. Call Sign Mav, Halal, and Buffalo River are 26. And there's a few others down in the market. I'm on daddy duty and the little one's just woken up, but I'm going to get you to tell our listeners, how good could I Wish I Win be?
Oh, he's He's the real deal. He beat a proper horse last start in Ayrton. Second best of the day performance, 2.7 lengths above IVR benchmark and smashed the raw track benchmark. He's a high quality horse and he's not only the X factor in this, but from a Cox Plate perspective, once again, he's the X factor from a Cox Plate perspective. So he's bringing in a similar level to what Animo has produced at the moment. So from a Cox Plate perspective, he's definitely in the talking point. If he's going to win a Cox Plate, he just belts this lot. So he's, you know, that's where I have him. I just said that if he's going to win a Cox Plate or he's even going to run well in a Cox Plate, he just belts this lot. You know, beat a proper horse in Ayrton, impossible to fault from a statistical measurement. And from what we've got on him on wet ground so far, he should handle, you know, you can pretty much lock him in that he's going to handle S5, S6. And there's no reason why he won't handle worse. So interesting runner, another one, $2.50. You might think that's a bit of a gift by the end of the day. I've got him to win. Then you can throw a hat across a number of them. Gentleman Roy looks ready to go real big. His last start was ultra impressive. He's a hard horse to fault and he's going to get some tactical advantages from an on-speed position. Look away from him, Military Expert flying, Call Sign Mav flying, but to me, they're a touch under. The one who I marked down as the big leaper in the field was Law of Indices. And he's a runner that he could definitely, you know, if he won, it wouldn't surprise me. If he filled a placing, you know, I've got an expectation that he's going to be somewhere between that second and fifth. So he's one for the multiples. And I suppose the other horse that everyone's going to be interested in is a horse like Pinstripes, where, you know, he's impossible to fault this campaign and he's building towards not only a big run, but I think he's building towards a big PB. So whether it comes here or we see it over the Flemington Carnival will be the question.
Well, Call Sign Mav, I thought was a value play at 26 and 650. What did you make of that run in the Rupert Clark? Because it sounds like the ratings gurus aren't really rating it that highly. I know it was on a heavy track.
Well, he flies heavy. And he's gone to a level where he's pushed his previous Australian PBs, historical Australian PBs 2.7 lengths above IVR benchmark. And, you know, his latest was a best of the day, 2.1 lengths above IVR benchmark performance. And the one thing about him is if this track gets into that, you know, soft 7, H8 range, he's going to be highly advantaged and his racing style will be advantaged by that also. So there's no reason why he can't go to that level again, which would put him, you know, within a length or so of I Wish I Win. And he's definitely going to be, you know, you can't leave him out of your multiples at all.
Yeah, normally you wouldn't see a horse like, well, you wouldn't see a horse go 1,400 back to 1,300 into a Group 1 1,600 metre race. But if they're thinking Cox Plate with this horse, then the mile should be no issue for I Wish I Win.
Not a problem at all. He's X Factor personified. And what you're seeing with him is real.
So is he a bet for you or wait and see on the track or?
I'll just wait and see on the track. The track will determine whether he's a chips in or sit and watch.
All right, well, they're the 3 Group 1s. I'm not sure when this Zoom meeting is going to end, but I'll get you to roll through some of your other tips in races 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, please.
Race 2.
So I'll get up race. I'll get up race 2 for you in the market. The Weekend Hustler. Old Flame is 290. Cardinal Gem 480. Purple Sector 6. Jimmy the Bear 8. Regards Marie 11. ASAR 14. Not an Option 19. Open Minded 23. I thought Morvada was a silly price at 26. And right down the bottom, Black Sail is $51 resuming here.
Yeah, you can have those two. I thought it was a race in 2. Again, track, I want a soft 6 for Old Flame, but I think he's airborne. And he's ready to go to that +1 range, which will likely be good enough to win. I had him marked down as a horse that I was interested in from a betting perspective, and the other one who is airborne and will also get a very economical run and can go to the level is the other Sydney side of Purple Sector. So they're the two that I was interested in this race, and then you can throw a blanket over the rest of them.
All right, race 3 is the Thoroughbred Club Stakes. English Riviera is 6. Godolphin horse Kin is 6 as well, from the stablemate Troach at $8.50. And I thought Nanagui at $9 was an each way play.
I marked Nanagui on top as well and agree with you as an each way bet. Only query with me is stepping up to the 1200 metres. 1100 metre profile to this point's been excellent and definitely come back a better horse this campaign. So she's a little bit of an unknown. English Riviera, don't really know what to do or make of her. Her performance at Ballarat on the synthetic in her first start was enormous, but she hasn't gone back to that level since. So she's a little question mark whether she just wants dry ground. Lady Laguna is a very nice horse. The leapers in the race I thought were Cest Magique for Graham Begg. Loved her performance last start. And the other one that I marked down as a leaper was right down the bottom, called Sweetened. D. Oliver, Ben and J.D. Hayes.
Yeah.
Excellent performance, Geelong. Best of the day, get through the ground. If that track deteriorates, she's right in the race.
All right, I'll be having a bet on Nanagui each way at the $9. Race 4 is the Village Stakes. What a great card. Zethus is $4.80 for Godolphin from the stablemate Gravina at 5. Prince of Boom 9, Triple Missile 9, Curran 9.50. Nicolini Vito 10, Pintoff 16, Frankie Pino 17, Amish Boy 18.
A lot of horses here that can win. Difficult race. Very difficult field. Gravina's the obvious. Handles all conditions, gets the right run, right profile for me. Probably the horse to beat from Zethus, J. Carr, James Cummings also. Mounting yard horse of the day will be Crosshaven, and certainly go to the level required to win this first up. Prince of Boom's probably the other one. Hasn't had a lot go right for him in his 2 starts in Victoria this campaign. He can certainly leap. So the other one in there would be Amish Boy if you're having a wide range multiple.
Yeah, I've gone a bit different to you. I've gone the horses out of the Wongoom, Warrnambool. Both ran fresh there, and that was Triple Missile and Frankie Pino. Frankie Pino was excellent in the Wongoom winning, and then backed it up at Group 1 level. Then stepped up in trip and got up to a mile. I'm not sure he's a miler. I think he might just be an out-and-out 1,200 metre horse. So resumes here. Wet track is no concern. And Triple Missile, as long as it's not in the heavy range, I can see Triple Missile running another big race. He's turned a foot late at Flemington 2 starts back. Was excellent on a soft track, then backed it up at Swan Hill and won again on a soft track. Only, had the 3 starts here in Victoria, but I think Lindsay Smith's starting to figure out this horse. I think he's really talented. So I'll be Triple Missile with maybe a little saver on Frankie Pino, just trusting that Wongoom form.
That sort of race, we can mention, 2 different sets of numbers.
Yeah. Herbert Power, though, 2,400 metres. Winner gets a ticket into the Caulfield Cup next week. It's not an overly strong race. Saracen Knights 380, Desert Icon 480, Persan 750, Regal Lion 8, Point Nepean 10, Emissary 11, Shiraz 12, Macram 13, Grand Promenade 21. And it probably speaks to the depth we have in our staying ranks at the moment.
Yeah, the depth we have in the staying ranks is probably a little bit below what is expected. And then when you get to what you would assess as the B division, if the A division go to a Caulfield Cup, then the B division look like they've got bright futures over hurdles, to be honest. Questionable sort of race. Mara Eustace Camp. Interesting play here, Grand Promenade Persan. Both horses look ready. Both horses fly 2,400 plus. And then you go and have a look at riders of Zara and Lane engaged. So it looks like a set play from these boys to, you know, it's a chips in, let's get one into the Caulfield Cup. They're the tried and true. You look away from them. Desert Icons, obviously airborne. I've got a little question mark about him at 2,400, but he's not going to have to be a world beater to beat these. Shiraz has got an excellent overseas profile. Comes back this campaign, the best it's been since it's been here. Looks like it's climatised better. D. Oliver, he'll be looking to get it into the Caulfield Cup. Regal Lions, a smoking gun, good performance, Sandown. Ignore the big price. A lot of people like to go on, you know, the SP profile, sort of $41, not really sure what to make of it. Good performance. Is it half a run short going to 2,400? That's a question mark. Neesham, excellent trainer. And then you start to look away from it and you got just the tried and true staying ranks. And Missionary is probably the only other one that, you know, if it won, I wouldn't be surprised. Moroney, McNeil, smart duo.
Yeah, I really like a Regal Line here as an each way play at sort of 8 and 270. I only had the 4 runs in Australia, obviously brought over from New Zealand. Good performance on Australian debut at Newcastle. Bottomless track, Randwick, Group 1. I think that was the ATC Derby. Forgive it on the bottomless track. Forgive it again first up on another bottomless track, and finally got to a good track and put them away at Sandown. And you'd think a soft track would be okay, but a bottomless track, you know, I wouldn't have him in. But if it's on the soft 6 range, I think the step up in trip will suit. And yeah, I'm happy to play Regal Line as an each way play. And then, yeah, it is. And I found this next race probably the hardest race of the day to judge. The Scalacci. It's a good little field. Paul Alley, 260. Zoo Style, 480. Queen of the Ball, good winner last start, 480. Ingratiating, 6. General Bow, 12. In the Boat, 15. Express Pass, 19. Oxley Road, 34. Shelby, 66 is $61. Few of these out of the Moya Stakes.
Can't see Caulfield not suiting Paul L. Looks like a real Caulfield horse to me. Had Clean Air, Moonee Valley. McDonald looked to make a run around the outside of them. You know, in hindsight, he may have stayed in a touch longer. But as he went, you know, between that 4 and the 2 section, there was a clear slowdown, and it was, you know, you could see it on the visuals. He just got detached from that lead group, especially from Bella Nipotina, who really kicks around Moonee Valley. So he was a horse that I would say did not handle the track. And, you know, talk about SP profiles again, he was the horse that everybody wanted to be with. So I think you're getting an excellent price about a horse like him, and you know he goes in all conditions. He's the horse clearly to beat for mine. From the stablemate, Ingratiating, airborne, but Ingratiating's problem with me right at this very point is he seems to have a limit. It's that +1 sort of range where you can be confident that he's going to go there, but +1's not a lot for Paul L to beat. And when you got horses like Zoo Style, Oxley Road, In the Boat, etc., you know you're going to get the venom early to enable those just sitting off the back of them to run that sort of number. So there, I had them 2 pretty clear and expect the winner to come from one of the 2. Zoo Style would be the on-speed runner that I would expect them to have to chase in the straight. Not overly interested in the rest.
Yeah, I end up settling on Zoo Style, and the reason is I think In the Boat might try and make a race of it up front, and that might just set it up for Zoo Style to sit on In the Boat's back and just get a nice card into the race. And then, as you said, I think Zoo Style's the one that they've got to chase down. Wet, dry, no issue for Zoo Style. You know, he's a strong winner at 1,200 meters. He's a winner at 900 meters. So, yeah, he's probably not you know, he's really an out-and-out sprinter. It doesn't really matter as long as it's in that sort of 1,000 to 1,200 meter range. My knock on Paul Alley is whether he's going as well as he did as a 3-year-old. Like his last prep wasn't outstanding. I know 4 of those runs were on heavy track and he placed, but they weren't standout performances. He had a couple of good performances at Eagle Farm. I think both a Group 1 level runner-up. One of them was top 3 performances of the day from an IVR perspective. But I feel like he's probably not the horse he was as a 3-year-old spring horse. So I want to see him do it first. I've got Ingratiating ahead of Paul Alley just on trust. As you said, you can be comfortable that Ingratiating is going to go to that +1. And his late taper over the last 200 suggested to me that he's got more fitness to come, that he might actually go to a new level, putting up that sort of figure first up. So I'm Zoo Style from Ingratiating, Paul Alley in third, and in the boat, if they're going to try and go from the front, he'll probably taper late. He really needs a dry track in the boat, but we'll see if he can improve on his first up run. I think he can. And Queen of the Ball wasn't too bad an effort at Moonee Valley. I'd like to see what she can do against these sort of horses. Was there anything in the last race, race 10, that jumped out? I think we've only got a few minutes left.
Zapateo class runner. Blue Jackets might have a good day. Written Beauty, the Smoking Gun, big mounting yard horse. You get a big parade, Written Beauty. She can jump out of the ground. Vespertine's a horse I got a lot of time for, but think she's a Flemington horse. I'm looking for a big run from her, and then she can stamp herself in a race over the Cups Carnival.
Okay, I'll be with Toorak, fresh mounting yard watch, but yeah, she's a quality horse. 1200 suits, wet suits. So if it does get wet, no issue. Toorak. And the other one that I was interested in at double figures was Another Award. Solid run first up. It was really just a sprint home, but 1200 meters certainly her go. Willing to give her another go, another award. So I'm Toorak and Another Award in the last race. Looks like Randwick's going to be a washout, mate. Protect that track ahead of the Everest.
Are you predicting that they call it off?
Well, it sounds like it's a heavy 10 today, and there's only going to be more rain to go. So unless they can move it at short notice, but I don't think they'd want to be running on that track and tearing it up 7 days out from an Everest.
Well, let's see. I obviously don't pay any attention to anything, so that's the first I've heard of it, but I've got a lot of writing to do on Sydney, so I would like to know in advance if we're going to run or not. Something this day and age, I just can't understand why we have to wait for either race morning or participants to get 3/4 of the way to the racetrack to make a decision like that. I would much prefer to see the meeting either moved somewhere else, run it either Saturday or Sunday somewhere, or give it the flick. Save people a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, no, I think they're expecting between 40 and 50 mils on race day as well, and then another 35 mils on Sunday. So moving it to Monday might even that might not even help this track. So I think it's a watch and see with Randwick. I wouldn't get too excited. Perhaps they could move it to Newcastle. I mentioned that in the autumn, that Newcastle's that track that's out of Sydney that could take on a Group 1 meeting, and they ended up doing that for one of the meetings. But it's a wait and see there. But you know, it's not a great card there. I think it's the Silver Slip, not the Silver Slipper, the Silver Eagle. And like I said, they wouldn't want to tear up that track ahead of the Everest next week. That probably covers us off, mate. A big watch. Cox Plate, 2 weeks' time. The horses out of the Might and Power, and then I Wish I Win in the Toorak. It'll be interesting to see how the Cox Plate market shapes up after Saturday. And the Caulfield Guineas, there doesn't really look like there's a 3-year-old that can do what Animo did and go from a Caulfield Guineas into a Cox Plate. There are a few nominated, but they'd really have to spike here in the Caulfield Guineas to warrant a spot in the Cox Plate. But I know the committee like to put a 3-year-old in if they get the chance.
Yeah, for sure. The thing with the Guineas, though, the interesting part when you're doing form for these sort of races is that the energy and the excitement and the big field in a Guineas creates a far superior lead speed to what these horses have come through, and creates a lot more pressure through the mid. So those horses that are sitting back in the pack and they don't have the big electric kick and they don't have the fascinating sectional times, we find out who the best horses are when there's high pressure and there's sustained high pressure. You know, you go back and you have a look at a race like a Turnbull and everybody goes, where did Smoke and Roman come from? And how did he win a race like that? Well, if you're going to run a -13 first section and only generate a little bit of energy through the mid and make a race a sharp 400-metre kick home, you got horses who are sitting in the pack that you assessed as flying in the lead up who did nothing. But then you go back and have a look at some sectional data and they've produced anywhere between +8 and +10 last 400s. You're going to have to be Winks to beat the winner. Now, that sounds funny to say that, you know, you need to be that level to run the winner down because it's only Smoke and Romans, but time's time. And if you can't physically run that fast to catch him over 400 metres, it's game over. So there's going to be a lot of confusion come out of that Turnbull Stakes. Remember, and I've told you this many a times, forget, you don't have to do all your form based on a last start performance. And last start performance can be excessively overplayed. Horses have profiles and horses run and do things deep into a campaign. So, you know, again, I touched on it 3 times now, an SP profile. You might have to respect the SP profile out of a race like a Turnbull, especially when you're talking about a horse like Jewess, because she might have had what appears to be a disappointing visual run. She might have had an A1 lead-up run going into a race like at the Caulfield Cup. You know, if they went +10 early and they staggered to the line, we'd be having a discussion about these horses are going to be as flat as biscuits going into a Caulfield Cup. Now, they've had the ideal lead-up, so just be careful. Horses are a little bit deeper than just the last start.
All right, Golden Mile's my best bet in the Caulfield Guineas. You got a best bet on Saturday?
My best bet of the day is to enjoy the day.
All right, mate. Good to chat. Good to have the podcast back. We'll chat next week ahead of the Caulfield Cup and the Everest.
I might make my best bet of the day Paul L.
Okay. No worries. I'm happy to take on Paul L.
It's Paul L time.
All right.
We might have to have a game of golf on Paul L. Who did you tip to be?
Okay.
Zoo style?
Zoo style, yeah.
All right. We'll have a game of golf bet on
head-to-head.
Those two. Head-to-head.
Sounds good. Next Gen Merchant fan fave. Good to see you, Hayden.
Adios, mate.